I'm back for another top 5 video. Today we're going to be talking about the top 5 better than expected walks that I've done in Tasmania. I think I'll limit this to kind of day walks in Tasmania, and I just want to point out that this is going to be different to underrated walks, because I'm thinking of something like Mount Parsons on the Freycinet Peninsula. I mean, everyone does Mount Amos and no one does Mount Parsons, but Mount Parsons is just as good. So that would be underrated, but was it better than I expected? Maybe not. Still a good walk. I also want to mention that I've got a couple of ideas from some people who follow the channel, which I'll probably make videos of in the near future. Time to go to number 5. At number 5, I have Mount Meru, February 2018. This is in northeast Tasmania, and it's a short but interesting walk. It did have a bit of a road walk at the start, which was pretty exhausting, but I mean, if you've got a four-wheel drive, you could probably avoid issues with the bridge. And while the forest was just much more beautiful than I expected, the myrtle forest was really open, then you had granite boulders scattered around as well, you had sandstone on top, and then excellent views from the summit of Mount Meru. So I thought it was a really fascinating mountain. I would love to go back there once everything's reopened. Wildlife as well, we had quite a lot of that, especially bird life, so that's why I've put it on this list. At number 4, I've got Cape Serval. This is both a better than expected and underrated walk. So we're down on the Forestier Peninsula, which is on the way to the Tasman Peninsula, and it's got some excellent coastal scenery. Okay, it's got a rough road for the last few kilometres if you're thinking about visiting, but the walk itself, really fascinating geology. Got kind of dolerite, sandstone and granite all in one place. Then you've got really nice areas of forest on the way. I remember this creek just falling over the cliffs down towards the ocean. Really exciting place, and I say underrated as well as better than expected because, you know, everyone drives straight past it and does Cape Pillar, Hoy, Rowell, and Cape Serval, no one does. At number 3, I have the Meander Falls circuit, something a little bit more recent than the other two. This was only last year. I've put it on the list because, well, while I knew Meander Falls was going to be a spectacular walk, making it a circuit just made it all the more enjoyable than I was anticipating. You have the amazing waterfalls in Meander Falls, Split Rock Falls, or was it Cleft Rock Falls? I think it's Cleft Rock Falls. And then Shower Cave Falls. They were stunning. The rivers were powerful, especially the Meander River. There's certain areas of Cascades that looked glorious. And then just delightful areas of forest on both sides of the valley around Meander Crag. And then you had a bit of alpine walking to add to the scenery when you go up the scree fields towards that Meander Crag saddle. It really is just a terrific part of the Great Western Tiers. Another place I'd really love to do some more exploring. There are still lots of waterfalls in that area I'm yet to visit. At number 2, I have the Wentworth Hills. This is the only off-track walk on the list. So we're kind of in the middle of Tasmania here. Basically, I've put it on the list because the scrub was a lot lighter than I was expecting when I was climbing up. I was expecting a bit of a bash, but I was able to kind of weave my way through it pretty easily. You know, maybe I just picked a good route, but it certainly made me enjoy Wentworth Hills a lot more. Lake Night is also a really wonderful spot, especially on the way back when the cloud lifted and it was a lot more sunny with the pencil pines around the lake. And then, of course, there are tremendous 360-degree views on the summit. You know, being that centrally located mountain, you can see so many places. Mount Wellington, up to Duquesne Range, Frenchman's Cap, and across the sandbanks tier and the walls of Jerusalem. Before we go to number 1, here are a couple of honourable mentions. Ironstone Mountain, wonderful. It was a wonderful circuit through, you know, glorious forest, you know, great alpine scenery. There was the historic hut, a beautiful river, Western Creek, I think that was what it's called. The only reason I've kind of not put it in my top 5 is because I kind of knew it was going to be a good walk. Like, it was still better than I thought, but just not as better than the other ones on this list, if that makes any sense. Still a really enjoyable walk. And the other one is absolutely Gorge Circuit. It was a bit of an uninteresting start to the walk, going through the forest, kind of up and down to the gorge. But rock hopping back down the Apsley River, back to the waterhole, was extremely fun. And when it was warm enough, we had a quick dip at a couple of spots. Here we are at number 1. I've got number 1 as being Miller's Bluff. This is a mountain that lots of people see, but don't know anything about, and maybe some of you haven't even heard about it. It's just to the west of the Midlands, and I just want to say that it's on private property, so you have to get permission to visit it. And while I didn't have high expectations of this walk, probably owing to its close proximity to Parson and Clark Mountain, I went there a couple of weeks earlier and found that quite boring, so I was thinking it was going to be similar, but it ended up being a really memorable trip. There was some awesome views over the Midlands. The farmlands was like patchwork on a carpet. It had a really interesting summit. It looked like a bit of history through the area, you know, the buildings and stuff like that. And there were some really nice areas of forest on the way up, and there was a bit of screen places as well to add to a bit of fun. There you have it. That is my top 5 better than expected walks in Tasmania. Like I said earlier, I'll got a couple more ideas from followers of the channel, which I might get around to making in the near future. Thanks for watching, stay safe, and I'll see you next video.